Thank you very much, Mr. Siddiqui, and good afternoon, everyone. It is a great day in Howard County. It's a beautiful day outside and a beautiful day on the inside as I'm here to make an extremely important announcement regarding our school system. And wanted to make certain today that we have all of our collaborative partners here. So bear with me as I recognize so many individuals in the room who've joined us today. I want to start with our Board of Education, and feel free to give applause to individuals because I particularly feel that oftentimes our public servants do not receive the adulation and the positive comments of which they truly should enjoy because of the work of which they do within our community. So I'm going to encourage you to give them that adulation today in a round of applause if you would. First, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Chow Wu, our Board of Education Chair. Give him a round of applause if you would. Ms. Jen Mallow, our Vice Chair, if you would give her a round of applause. Member of the Board of Education, Ms. Vicki Catronio, give her a round of applause. Ms. Christina Delmont Small, give her a round of applause, who's been with me from the very beginning. Former Board of Education members who are here today, Ms. Kirsten Coombs. Kirsten, who's been with us on this journey. I believe Sabina Taj was supposed to be here, but I don't see her. We'll acknowledge her when she arrives. Continuing down through, it goes without question, the solid relationship that I have with our county executive, someone I enjoy working with every day. We talk constantly. Please give it up for our own Dr. Calvin Ball, our county executive, if you would. Howard County Council members, chairman of the board, Liz Walsh, give her a big round of applause, if you will, who's behind me. And Christiana Rigby, who is here as well. Give her a round of applause. We also enjoy a very talented and committed delegation in Howard County, and representing our delegation today is Senator Clarence Lamb. If you would give him a round of applause. And I believe that I've covered all of our elected officials, and I want to make certain that we provide that acknowledgement. Also, we enjoy a very good working relationship with our associations, and with us today with our Administrators Association, someone who I've known for a very long time, Mr. Edward Cosentino, Vice President of the Howard County Administrators Association. Congratulations on your presentation this weekend as well. You're representing us nationally. I appreciate that. And the President of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Mr. Robert Coleman. Give him a round of applause. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all of our staff members who work tirelessly on behalf of our children every day, particularly the individuals who monitor the close to $1 billion. And let me say that as your superintendent, our school system budget is close to $1 billion. That is with a B. And that's a lot of money if you haven't figured that out. And each one of those dollars is generated from our taxpayers. And as individuals within our community, we have a responsibility to be stewards of those dollars. And individuals within our school system monitor that with the oversight of our Board of Education. And that responsibility is great, now more than ever. And so that's why this announcement today is extremely significant. So I thank all of our staff who are here. Give them a round of applause if you would. To members of our community and to individuals attending today, it seems like only yesterday, not too long ago, but it was 4 years ago, that on May 2nd, 2017, that I became the acting, soon-to-be interim, soon-to-be permanent superintendent of the Howard County Public School System on May 2nd, 2017. At that time, we looked very clearly at our school system's finances and found myself in a very precarious situation with our Board of Education, that we inherited an approximately $37 million deficit. And for me as a superintendent who served as a long period of time, the word deficit with a school system is completely incongruent. We're not the federal government. We can't continue to have deficits. We don't have the ability and the authority to do so. By law, we must have a balanced budget. And when I was informed of the $37 million deficit in our health fund, it was extremely disturbing. It should have been disturbing to every member of our community, every citizen, because as I talked about the financial responsibility and stewardship of which we have. It was $37 million, and it was projected to balloon to $50 million through the following years. But through our efforts of quick action by my staff, by myself, and with our Board of Education, we were able to limit its growth that year to only 39.2 million. And when I say that only, it's still disturbing that we found ourselves in that place. Eliminating the deficit became an immediate priority, top priority for myself and the board. And in late 2019, working collaboratively with our county, the board, the county supported a multi-year plan that would have eliminated the deficit by 2024. 2024. This was the first such plan developed and approved by both entities, demonstrating our shared commitment and responsibility to fix the structural financial problem. I am pleased to report today that using savings within the school system's operating budget, a one-time infusion from the funds from the Howard County government, our county executive, Dr. Ball, and a lower than expected claims experience in the fiscal years 2021 and 2022, the health deficit will be eliminated in this current fiscal year when we close the financial year on June 30th, 2022. Now, what I just said is extremely important. The elimination of this truly momentous day, as we can celebrate our commitment to the collaboration that has finally addressed this deficit, and that the Howard County Public School System will not be hampered by the looming deficit year after year. Those of you who know me well know that anybody who would listen to me when I would hear me talk about the deficit, quite frankly, someone has already asked me, what will I talk about next? Trust me, I've got the next item to discuss. But year after year, being straddled by this and having this as an albatross around our proverbial necks has created many challenges for us. Our budget focus will no longer be on how can we avoid adverse audits or get out a multi-year dollar debit. We can now focus on how the budget can support the very important programs and services that our students and staff need. We can focus on the mandates that we must meet as part of our blueprint for the Maryland and the Kerwin legislation, which, let me foreshadow to all the elected officials, will dominate the discussion not just now, but as we've defined it internally for the next decade of the shifts that have to occur, and we need to be positioned financially to meet those challenges. We can focus on learning recovery that is going to be critical to support all of our students as they return this fall for in-person instruction. Many of whom, think about this, many of whom will enter the school buildings for the first time in over 17 months. And so that becomes extremely important to maintain the financial viability. Yes, we have future concerns. The dependency and the use of fund balance to balance the budget. We need to continue now to work on that to ensure that that is addressed. But several efforts combined to allow us to eliminate the health fund deficit in such an expedited fashion are critical. The efforts of the Board of Education's steadfast commitment for the last 4 fiscal years to fully fund the actuarial projections, the healthcare costs stopped the deficit from growing, and the board's advocacy for the county to support was critical in developing a collaborative plan. So we must always make the commitment to fully fund our obligations. We have to do that, and we have to be together on that particular issue. We cannot run a deficit regarding any portion of our budget, and we have to have accountability measures in place that ensure both of those items are taken care of. And the third prong is to ensure from here on out that we build a fund balance up to address any of the swings that we know when we are a school system that is self-insured, that we pay the bills, that we have a responsibility to ensure that the money is there to guarantee what the commitments that we've made to the individuals who rely on the health care for our school system. Now, if you look at our budget contains a very large amount of over $160 million of that billion-dollar budget that is devoted to health care. We provide benefits for close to 20,000 individuals. And when that is unreliable and there's cracks in the foundation, it creates great concern. So this is more than just announcing that the deficit is eliminated. It provides that structural integrity for our overall budget that everybody in this room has a responsibility to address. The county executive and the county council have been extraordinary partners by dedicating a one-time contribution in the FY 2022 for the deficit reduction and for supporting the use of the fund balance to reduce the deficit in FY 2020. Our school system implemented strategic budgetary measures to generate year-end savings in a general fund to help pay down the deficit. And finally, during the pandemic, we've experienced unanticipated health cost savings in the health fund that have produced operating gains. And I know our Board of Education is extremely proud and pleased when we always are looking at the judicious use of our dollars. So through those savings, we've been able to adjust and address that. But I want to leave you with this thought. If we had not had that deficit and we had those gains in our dollars, think about what we could have done for the benefit of our children during those times. So I impress upon all of us the importance of the financial viability of all of our government entities, particularly our school system, to ensure the viability of those dollars are addressing the needs that we have for the academic achievement of our children. This deficit has significantly constrained our operating budget for several years and eliminated our ability to adequately fund those priorities I just talked about. And I want to recognize the dedicated staff for their effort to efficiently lead us out of this deficit by developing a plan and then working with our county officials to ensure we achieve this goal on an accelerated schedule. At one time, the health fund had a fund balance of more than $20 million. Take a look at this chart. With the deficit eliminated, we must now commit as a school system and as a county to never again jeopardize this fund or underfund the liabilities because it is a volatile space to play with. We cannot do that. It is our responsibility and the responsibility of all future leaders in our county to ensure that our employee health care funds and costs are fully funded. And so as I reflected today on this event, and I appreciate all of you in attendance and the individuals behind me, be patient with my verbosity today, but the words need to be very clearly aligned with the significance of this event. And as I drove to work today, I thought about the poignancy of the words in the event for this long measured road, the journey, the marathon to get us to this day. I'm reminded of the words of Margaret Mead that states, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed, dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And so when we address situations such as this, it is our responsibility to shine the light on our problem and identify reasons and ways to address the problems and move us forward. And without the commitment of the individuals in this room, the dedication of the thoughtful individuals in this room, we wouldn't be here. And so I applaud all of you, and trust me, I will find something else to talk about. But this is a major step today and needs to be given the attention that it deserves, that I don't believe all individuals in our community fully understand. But when we're talking about taxpayer dollars, those are hard-earned dollars from each and every one of our members of our community that have dedicated themselves for the betterment of our children. We, as individuals, have a responsibility to provide the oversight. And so on a personal note, I want to thank all of you that have become such good friends to me through the years of your work and dedication to address what's significant about our school system, and this is a major step forward. As I state today, the future is extremely bright for the children in Howard County, and this is the reasons why when you have great people working together. Thank you very much. And now it is with great pleasure that I turn this over to our chairman of the board, Dr. Chow Wu. Dr. Wu.
Thank you, Dr. Morano. And I really appreciate it. We got almost a full house, right? And it has been a while. We see so many audience in the house. And when I first heard from Dr. Morano about the news, I feel so excited. It is a milestone for the school system. So when I first joined the board, I said, actually before I joined the board, that's one reason I said I need to run for school board. That's almost 4 years ago now. The deficit has handcuffed the Board of Education and the superintendent to implement the efforts that serve our students and support for staff and families. This is not a problem created by this board, or by the superintendent, but it is our duties to fix them. It is remarkable that we were able to take a deficit that is nearly $50 million in just 3 years to eliminate that. None of this would be possible without the combined support from our school system and our county leaders. I want to congratulate Dr. Marano for his continuous and straightforward commitment and continued ringing the bell that we need to get this done. I want to thank Mr. Sticky and his team for taking this charge from the board and from the superintendent and ensuring that our budget development, management, and oversight achieve these results today. I'm appreciative of Dr. Bo and his staff for their collaborative efforts, and the County Council, with leadership with Ms. Walsh, for prioritizing this deficit reduction, and continues to approve our fund transfer to pay back this deficit. And the many school system staff who found ways to do more with less and implement strategic budgetary constraints and measures which result this year-end savings. Since 2017, the Board of Education has prioritized fully funding the actually projected health insurance costs, preventing the deficit from growing. We'll continue to prioritize the health benefit that our employees receive and engage in a sound financial practice to ensure we will never find ourselves in this position again. We need to be accountable to our taxpayers and take accountability ourselves as a decision maker seriously. The huge health fund deficit was one reason I decided to run for school board in 2018, and I'm glad that the deficit is gone quicker than I imagined. I will continue to keep this promise as ever before. I would like to invite Howard County Executive Dr. Bo to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wu, Dr. Materano, Mr. Siddiqui. What a fantastic day here in Howard County, a day where we can demonstrate what collaboration and vision will accomplish. Over the course of our entire administration, we place an emphasis on confronting the county's fiscal challenges head on. As the pandemic gripped Howard County and the rest of our world in March of last year, it was clear that we needed to take smart, aggressive fiscal action. Amid mounting uncertainty, we've made difficult budget decisions to reduce the anticipated fiscal impact of the virus on our communities, including an internal government hiring freeze and reductions to spending on contractual supplies and services. By making tough decisions and meeting our fiscal challenges head on, we secured our 24th consecutive AAA bond rating this year, making Howard County one of fewer than 50 counties across our nation to hold that distinction. Our school system's health fund deficit represented another significant fiscal challenge that our administration, working with the school system and the county council, had to confront upon taking office. Over a 4-year period, from the end of fiscal year 2015 to the end of fiscal year 2019, as Dr. Materano indicated, our health fund balance went from about $1.6 million in surplus to nearly $40 million in deficit. Our fiscal challenge was significant enough that our external auditors took notice, issuing a modified adverse opinion for our school system in its fiscal year 2019 CAFR. Based upon these indicators, it was clear that our current path was not sustainable, and that decisive action was needed to meet this fiscal challenge head on. Working collaboratively with our partners at the school system, in early 2020, we developed that multi-year plan to eliminate this deficit by the end, as Dr. Materano indicated, of fiscal year 24. However, this plan was developed through months of dialogue between our teams, and the result was sustainable and a shared effort to address this glaring financial issue. We took immediate action together to implement our multi-year plan, filing legislation in February 2020 to permit the use of $7.2 million of unassigned fund balance to reduce the school system's health fund deficit, which passed our county council unanimously, and I thank them for their work. Based upon the development of a joint multi-year plan to resolve the health fund deficit, supported by the decisive action by both the county and the school system was able to secure an unmodified CAFR in fiscal year 2020. Receiving that unmodified opinion in FY 2020 was an important milestone in validating our collective actions. We're moving our county in the right fiscal direction. And our progress on this important issue has continued well ahead of schedule of this joint plan. In April, we stood outside the George Howard Building and announced that our proposed budget would include $10 million to further pay down this deficit. On that day, I expressed optimism that our county contribution, coupled with the additional year-end savings from our school system, would allow us to announce the elimination of this deficit in the coming months. And today, with our partners at the school system, our partners at the Board of Education, our partners at the County Council, we can announce that end and that our hard work and shared efforts have paid off, working collaboratively with the best interests of our county in mind. We have accomplished something truly remarkable. We have taken a near $40 million deficit and turned it into a projected surplus of about $5 million in just 3 years. I firmly believe that the mark of good leadership and good government is how we respond to adversity. Together, we faced that daunting challenge, met it head on, and resolved to addressing the issue together. I am immensely proud of the work that we've done to eliminate this deficit, and I am thankful to partners like Dr. Materano, who really legitimately wanted to talk about this almost every time we spoke over the last several years. Our members of the Board of Education and our County Council for making this day possible for current and future generations.
This is a happy day, and on behalf of the County Council and with Councilmember Rigby, I am honored to be here to celebrate your achievement in contributing to this. The County Council, the 5 of us new to our positions, have shared consistently with the superintendent's goal, with the Board of Education's goal, to eliminate this health fund deficit as quickly as we possibly could. So much so that all 5 of us, each of us unanimously, voted in support of an amendment in this last fiscal year to dedicate another $2.5 million to that exclusive purpose, pay down this health fund deficit. And that past mistake behind us, we can all of us turn our attention to fairly and fully funding the present needs, the future needs of our county school system and the children that we find there in our care at this very moment and for generations to come. That's all I have to say. Again, I'm so happy at your achievement of this and to be part of it and to be part of the team that has collaborated towards this achievement. Congratulations.
At this time, we'll take any questions for the speakers. Seeing none.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Dr. Martirano, can you just reflect on how the school system got here and how we're going to not get here again?
Yeah, my comments in the words, excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry.
I projected pretty well.
Yeah. She asked if I would reflect on how we got here and then preventing that from ever happening again. So as we dissected this particular issue, and I think it's important to provide a little bit more muscle to this question, as we reflected, those were some of the first questions I asked. How could that happen knowing that school systems are not allowed by law to have a deficit? Let me state that again. We are not allowed by law to have a deficit. We have to balance the budget. And so unpacking that revealed that there was not the fully funding of the obligations. That's the first prong, is to make certain that what the projections and the actuarial projections require us to fund have to be done. You can't run that loose and fast and say, oh, we'll underfund it and then make up for it at the end of the year through a categorical transfer or other funding. So that's the first point. The second is to make certain that you have a very healthy fund balance, which the school system, as you could see, did at one point. Now, during times, so when I say those two things, we have to commit to fully funding it, to never, ever see that happening again, and we have to have a fund balance to be very realistic to say, when we're self-insured, there will be swings where we may have million-dollar claims or things that we can't control, but we have to have the financial support to cover that. But when you have a fund balance and you're experiencing other challenges within your budget, it becomes very tempting to dip into that amount and dip into that amount to cover other obligations. And so it's our responsibility not to allow that to happen as well, to stay sacrosanct, to complete fidelity, to making certain we're fully funding, having a fund balance to cover swings, and not using those dollars to put the overall fund for healthcare at risk. And when I personalize that and make the statement that we have over $160 million within our budget to cover the healthcare costs, that's a lot of money. And when I say to the community, we provide benefits for over 20,000 individuals within our school system, dependents, employees, that's something that keeps me up late at night to think about the individuals who are counting on the school system to provide that support. And they should never be put in a position where that is threatened in any way or creates additional anxiety, particularly as I had conversations this year with the board when our community was under great anxiety regarding health in general, all things associated with COVID. So those issues from the past need to be reflected on, and it is our job as forward-thinking leaders to put us in a position that avoids us ever, ever, ever being in that place again by doing those issues that I've talked about. So everybody in the community, as we have public comment at our board meetings, I get a little bit chagrined at our public comments during our budget work sessions and our sessions with our community that not a lot of individuals show up to provide testimony to our budget for the school system. This is where our community needs to really engage and hold our elected officials and myself accountable to funding the things that matter to the overall viability of our school system. And again, to recapitulate everything that I said earlier, if these things are not tended to, that I'm giving great attention to today with my words, it whittles away at our obligation to educate our children the reason why the school system exists. And I have found myself in too many places that I've had to be with our Board of Education and say, if we didn't have this, this is what we could have done. And a specific example of that is, and many of the board members in here still have the battle scars from it, is when we found ourselves woefully under-supported in the arena of technology to support the online learning that we needed to have. So we had to address those dollars, but the healthcare deficit loomed. So I summarize by stating those reasons, and all of us, again, to emphasize the responsibility that we have to prevent that.
Well, to jump off your point about ensuring 20,000 members of our community, mostly members of our own community.
Exactly.
Teachers live here. Can you sort of reflect on what you think this means to the teachers themselves?
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you a reflection because I'm very involved in our community, all of our elected officials are, and I spend time in various establishments talking to teachers, whether it's over in the produce section of the local grocery store. And I had a teacher actually who was expecting and questioning another cut of which we were making in the budget. And that became a very personal conversation with the two of us by stating that if we don't provide these cuts from the budget, we can't fully fund the health care, which will directly create challenges for you as you are thinking about the delivery of your first child. And she stated very clearly, I mean, she got emotional with me and said, I never thought of it like that, as she was advocating for other things within the budget, the significance and importance of having a stable, well-rounded support system for our employees containing salaries that are competitive and benefits that should not be jeopardized in any way for our employees through the year. And the thought of the conversations that we had about the healthcare deficit always generated emails to myself or conversations with individuals where they felt increased level of anxiety. And the jobs are tough enough, right? When we're educating our children, they don't need to have the additional anxiety of thinking that their health care will be jeopardized. So a promise made is a promise kept, and there's so many connections on this for our employees, for our community, that we should never find ourselves here again.
Is self-funding insurance the way to go?
Well, the analysis is that where we are is, that's pretty much the best option. We can do all the analysis that we have with an organization at our side, and I've got a lot of people who advise me. The piece of self-insured is that making certain that our population of employees is fully educated. When we have certain splits in terms of how much that costs, it's not that insurance pays for that, as people think in a very abstract way, oh, insurance will just cover that. Every one of those bills that come in, we pay for. So the $160 million to make this personalized that we dedicate to our health fund, that covers the claims of which we're expecting. So at a very personal level, it's not insurance in the abstract imaginary way. Those are real dollars contained within our budget, and we're always looking for ways to provide savings, more efficiencies, use of their own urgent care versus going to emergency rooms. There's all kinds of things. We have to continue to keep our population educated on this topic. As we all know, the topic of health care is dominating, and one thing I know for certain is it's not going down. And the costs are expected to continue to go up. And as a number of our forward-thinking board members will remind me, that we have not seen the residuals of the impacts of COVID long-term on all of our health care. And we have to keep an eye on that as well. So the things that keep me up late at night are when we are thinking about putting our health care at risk that would create anxiety for our employees. That's a big concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.